Thank you everyone for carving out some time for us this afternoon. This is our July meeting and we are lucky to have Rory here with us today, who's going to talk about form assembly and how you can use that with Sales Marketing Cloud predominantly. Okay, so when my screen, there we go. Oh, I spun over that because my screen is moving too quickly. There we go. Okay, so I'm Kerry Townsend. I see that many of you have been at these sessions before, so you probably already know that. You can find me on Twitter in between these sessions or within the community group that is specific this group online. I am at the moment doing some freelance consulting and my co-host Jimson.
Yeah, so I'm Jimson Lee. I think most of you know me. So I work for Cloud Analyst. We're a boutique Salesforce partner that does cross-cloud and marketing cloud. So we're based in Brighton, London, and Manchester, and we have a team of 10, and we have our global experts around the world who help us out as well.
Cool.
Next slide.
Thank you, Jimson. So this is the agenda for today. So we'll go through, like we've done a little bit of a welcome. We'll do some announcements, just some highlights of things that you might be interested in. Then Jimson's going to talk us through some highlights from the releases, which will be pretty cool. And then we'll get into the main session, which will be Rory, who's going to show us some actual practical elements, which will be pretty cool. And then depending on whether we've got time at the end, I'll come on to a session that I did recently about marketing cloud resources. But I mean, if there's lots of Q&A and stuff like that, then we might reschedule that for a different time. So just so that some recaps on how you connect with us. So as I mentioned, there is a collaboration group, and I have actually not updated this slide. So it was on trailblazer.salesforce.com and you would still be able to find it if you go to that link. But I don't know if anybody's seen or has been recently aware that the community and the collaboration groups has now all been consolidated onto Trailhead, so that you can actually access all of those groups and your feed actually through one central place, which is Trailhead, which is pretty good. Again, with any different system, it takes a little bit of wondering where all the different things are, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So we have a group on there, which is the London Marketer group, which is Marketing Cloud. So if you want to connect with people or ask questions in between these meetings, then you can go and join in that group. And I think we're actually close to 500 members. So if you're not in there already, I encourage you to join so that we can nudge that number up and hit the 500. So also it's good to know now that you can actually get on Trailhead via the mobile app. And again, you'll be able to access various things within the community. We record these sessions, so if you ever miss one, you can go and follow up with the recording on our YouTube channel, which is SFMC London. And then also there is a Twitter handle, which I predominantly just put out the announcements for when the next meetings are. So you can usually, if you're not sure when it is or you haven't seen a notification, then you can typically go onto that Twitter handle, and I'll have endeavored to pin the next meeting to the top there so you can find the links or share it with anybody within your team or your community who thinks that that would be useful. So in terms of meetings coming up, so I think we've got into a little bit of a tradition of this. We're planning to take a break in August. We predominantly do this because, you know, people are out and about, they might be on holiday, the kids are not in school, so it's a time where people are generally more out and about and the weather is a bit better. And also we're very sort of conscious, particularly in the UK, that some of the regulations are going to change, and that might find people experimenting with doing a wider range of things. So in the interests of just, you know, keeping the Zoom fatigue to a minimum, we are going to take a break in August, and then we're planning to be back in September. So at the moment, we are possibly thinking that that September version will still potentially be online, but depending on, you know, how things go, then you know, that's a work in progress, but obviously that information will come out when the link comes through to sign up. So other events that you might be interested in if you're part of the wider Salesforce community and use Salesforce Core as well, is the devs have a meetup next week on the 21st, and the admins are meeting on the 22nd. So those might be a couple of dates for the diary. In there. And as some of you may have seen, London's Calling have announced our date. Now, I might be slightly biased here because I'm one of the organisers, but we do have a marketing track with London's Calling. So we haven't got information about the call for speakers out yet, but it is coming next year. It will be in June. We've moved it slightly later in the year to give us the best possible chance of actually being able to all meet up in person, because we know that, you know, people have missed the in-person meetings. We typically always have some sort of online element and streaming of content. So again, even if you're not able to attend physically in person, then there will be some content available. But I'm very keen to, you know, keep this in the presence of mind of this audience, because I really want to see as much sort of marketing submissions for content as possible, so that we can bring more marketing and marketing cloud content to the audience and raise the profile of that. So really appreciate it when anybody submits content for that. And then, as you may have been aware, there were a couple of events on last week. So that was both the Success Anywhere, which was the 2nd of July, which is, so Success Anywhere is the Salesforce current version for World Tour, as we're not really able to meet in person at the scale that we typically would have done. They're doing Success Anywhere sessions, which last approximately about an hour and have some sort of specific product type focus in each of them. So there was one of those that was based out of the UK last week, and you can go and view a recording of that. That one is just an hour. And then you've got Salesforce Live, which again is a much bigger event, which lasted, I think, maybe over about 4 hours. And that happened last Wednesday. And there's lots of different content sessions that you can go and view the recordings on demand. So one of the reasons that we moved our meeting from last week to this week was that we knew that all of this, you know, content was available and that people might be spending some time catching up with that. So if you haven't seen that already, then do take the opportunity to catch up with those recordings. And Jimson, over to you to talk about some highlights from the release.
Great, thank you, Carrie. So I'll just be about 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes long. So as we know, Marketing Cloud has 5 releases a year, unlike Sales Cloud with 3. And I want to go talk about June and maybe back in April. So back in April, I think the best feature was Package Manager. If you're serious into Marketing Cloud and you have multiple BUs, if you haven't tried Package Manager, I really urge you to try it. It's a big game changer. It will help your deployments. If you have to do testing from one BU to the other, I really recommend you start playing with Package Manager. It's fairly straightforward, but if you have any questions, just give me a shout on the community and we can help you out. The other stuff is kind of legacy, like the V2 connector. Some of us are still on really old orgs like S10, S7. And if you still have a V2 connector, you really, it says June, but they keep extending it and extending it. They don't want to turn it off, but just in case, if you are still using the V2 connector, yeah, you really should get the V5 connector now. The other thing about the last highlight, it kind of annoyed me, and if you know me personally, you know I don't get annoyed too often, but there are a lot of products in the last release that were paid apps. They're either paid add-ons or they're only available to Enterprise Edition. And not many people I know really work on Enterprise Marketing Cloud orgs. Usually it's corporate or professional. And there were some really good, one on Datorama, there was so many features, but you really needed the high-end stuff. So if you don't have it, like I said, you can consider the add-on if it's worth the price, but that was one part that really annoyed me. And moving on to the next one, I think the big game changer, because at Cloud Analyst, we do more than just Marketing Cloud. We do like core, we do a lot of SEO work, we do a lot of media work, we do a lot of analytics and website design as well. So we're really close with Google Analytics as well and Datorama. But the big game changer is GA4, Google Analytics 4, and we're going to have a blog post tomorrow on that. And I think if you haven't heard about GA4, I really recommend it only because it's Google's attempt to bring analytics from cross devices and apps and all your websites. So in Marketing Cloud, it's still the same GA that you're used to, but it's also good for both email sends and Journey Builder. So it really ties it in. But the other piece of that, if you have a mobile connect app, you can connect your app to Google Analytics. You need a Marketing Cloud SDK, software developer kit, to get this enabled, but it really is good to really finally get the whole picture of apps and sites and Journey Builders. So there's really one-stop shopping for everything. Take a look at it tomorrow on our blog at cloudanalyst.com. A couple more items here for those who use the WhatsApp. WhatsApp was released in the last April connector, and before you needed to have that phone number, correct syntax phone number, like +447, not +4407. That's going to fail. And now with the new contact key, it will actually look up if you already are in contact with a proper formatted mobile number. It will look up there as well. So you don't have to physically program the mobile number in that one. And for those who do Snapchat, I don't know, a lot of young people out there, Ad Studio, Advertising Studio now supports Snapchat. If it works for you, great. But I think most of us in the business really support either Google or Facebook advertising, but that feature was out there. The last few parts was Cloud Pages. Now, I don't know if you like it or hate it, but they've done their fancy renaming. So what was called the new Cloud Page experience is simply Cloud Page on Cloud Page. And what we loved was the classic Cloud Page, what I call classic, is now called Cloud Pages Legacy Experience. So they flipped it around. So if you are looking for a Cloud Page, you have to just make sure you go to the other one, not this one here. Rory will show it later quickly on his demo, but that's one thing, pet peeve of mine. They're really, getting rid of the old stuff. They're getting rid of Email Studio Classic, that's gone. So again, Marketing Cloud, it's a moving target. You either hop on the bus or you stand on the side of the road and wave goodbye, right? Take a pick, right? So, but I think when it comes to Cloud Pages, now anyone here, I think a lot of us here work with Core as well, Salesforce Sales Cloud, as well as Marketing Cloud. And Web to Lead is your basic form. Everyone can configure it and copy the code, put it on your website. But I think the power of using a form, and this is a good preamble to Rory in his talk at Form Assembly, is that if you do Salesforce, whatever form to lead, form to object, or whether you use Marketing Cloud and you're trying to use a Cloud Page to write to your data extension, you come to a lot of problems, because if you're trying to do a multi-dependent pick list on a form, that's hard to do. If you're dealing with attachments, that's hard to do out of the box. So Form Assembly handles those things kind of nicely. So I think if you are working a lot with lead capture and forms, and not just any forms, but let's say you're like a waiting room and you have what I call the iPad experience. You're going to a dentist and they say, oh, here, while you're here waiting, just fill this iPad and fill in your details. All that data capture stuff should be automated. And what better way to do it than through a form? And I'll show you, well, pros and cons, and Rory will continue on with Form Assembly. But there are some features of Cloud Pages that are worth looking into, and especially when you're trying to write back to the data extension. And one of it is now it supports upsert, right? Just insert and then upsert. And upsert is something that was missing in Cloud Pages for the longest time. But we'll see Rory's example a bit later. But like I said, you really should try to play around with Cloud Page, Salesforce, and see if that fits for you. And that's about it for the June highlights. There's a lot of other stuff, but I don't think it pertains to people on this group. But these were some of the key highlights that needed to be called out. And on that note, I think I'm going to pass on the screen to Rory. So Rory, maybe a few minutes, tell us about yourself, what you do at Form Assembly, and let's crack on with the demo.
No problem. Thanks, Jimson. I hope I sound okay. I've got a microphone next to me here. I moved flat in the last week, so this will not be my actual home office. I'm kind of doing it a bit piecemeal. I'm going to be in that room here. So if everyone has trouble hearing me, I'm very sorry. Basically, I have no solution. So yeah, I'm Rory. I'm the partner manager at Form Assembly for EMEA. I'm in the role since April 2020. Got the role entirely in lockdown in Spain, where I live. And yeah, just been basically enjoying developing Form Assembly's market across Europe. Marketing Cloud is not my forte. I'm going to caveat that. I have more of an experience in Salesforce Core. However, joining Form Assembly, I noticed that we did have a connector, and I made it a bit of an initiative to scale up in that and understand how does it actually work with Marketing Cloud. And truth be told, we didn't have so many, let's say, specialists in Marketing Cloud. There was maybe 1 or 2 people actually testing it out and how it works. And then I began to see a couple of different use cases. Since last year, I know that it was definitely well known that we weren't working with Interaction Studio, since going back to it recently to build out this demo, I've noticed that it became available, but it's still in my demo environment for Marketing Cloud. It doesn't actually let me go into Interaction Studio. So I'll just caveat that as well before starting. But yeah, so the idea for today's demo, what I'm going to show is basically a quick run through the platform, how to get a form built in under 3 minutes, let's say, and a glance at some core pre-made forms. So something that's going to just go into Salesforce Sales Cloud. And then after that, I'll come back into the Marketing Cloud one I had made. And that's going to have 2 connectors out of 3 showing pre-fill functionality, submission functionality, and then after form submission, I can just show you that you can update the details at a later stage. And then also, as Jimson mentioned, Cloud Pages. It's been a while since I really took a look at Cloud Pages, and I've got my form to work on a Cloud Pages link, but it didn't really copy over all the HTML that I was hoping for. That's since changed, which I'm sure people on the call may know a little bit more about that. So then we'll leave time hopefully for Q&A if you have for me at the very end, and that's it. So let me get into sharing my screen. Oh yeah, perfect. I got it now. So let me know if you can see my screen. Yep, perfect. So yeah, I'm in my demo environment up here in the top left. It's Enterprise Demo, and Enterprise is our 3rd tier plan. Marketing Cloud is actually available at Premier, which is our 2nd tier plan. So it's not available at the very most basic level. We patched in Marketing Cloud at Premier because pre-filling becomes available, which you'll see today. So those 2 for us kind of go hand in hand, and that's where that additional price will come in. But yeah, so this is my demo environment. I have 70 forms I've made over time. I have all these different tags that I've put in. So you can see a couple of consultancies, a couple of different topics, and a couple of companies even or subjects or whatnot that exists here that we've used in the past. I can drill in here and search for the title of my form from the search bar here. And then with each form, they have a unique ID as well as capabilities to go directly into the front end builder by this button here called build. And configure gives you a little bit more flexibility into how you want to actually have the form be processed, how you want the notifications to look upon submission, how you want to connect it up to that maybe Salesforce Marketing Cloud connect to Salesforce Core, as well as some non-native apps like Stripe, PayPal, all the payment gateways that we do connect to because we are a non-native app. And then finally, you can dive right into the URL you created by view, drill into responses. I'm sure you probably want to use Salesforce a little bit more on the reporting side of things, but you can actually go into response time, number of responses, least, most, etc. Publish it either on the website that we give. You can have a custom URL at enterprise level as well, but also for the Cloud Pages piece, this is where I copied in the HTML because we're a low-code, no-code platform. You can copy and paste it, place it wherever you need it. So that's it. So these are the 2 that you're going to see today. Form Assembly Summer Camp. We are actually hosting a summer camp if you check it out in the blog. So I just felt like keeping it on theme. It is the middle of summer here. And then the other one is going to be the donation form. So we work a lot with non-profit driven partners. So donor forms are really common. So I'm just kind of showing a little journey there between returning donors and also new donor sign up. Before we do that, let's actually check out the builder itself. So I'm going to hit this plus button on the left, 4 different options. The blank form is where the builder is. We have a template library as well. So if there's any subjects like GDPR or marketing campaigns or anything pertinent to this group that you find interesting, you want to save as a template, you can do here. The Salesforce import, I don't believe it works on Marketing Cloud itself. This is more for core. So that's kind of working with the objects directly and bringing it back into the form. And then you can clone the form if you want to just take everything again. So I'm going to just go into the builder here and cascade my camera here. So it's out of the way. So sometimes this may happen if it is not loading. The hack is basically hit save and it's going to refresh. And I have an entirely bare form with no content or elements. It's just going to look like that. So I'm going to begin to build on it. So I'm going to edit the form title and say marketing. Something like that. Hit done and save up the top again. And so I've renamed my form here. Lately, I've seen a change also in our forms and the front end builder anyway, in that it comes labeled here at the top with our logo. You can change that over here in themes, which I'll get to in a sec. But essentially, if I want to add in some elements, I can pin this and just keep it open and then have an idea of what kind of fields or questions you really want to add in. So for example, if I just want the text input, it's going to look like that. First name, that, copy that, and then here have last name. I don't think the first one worked. Then I have different functionality on this. Basically, is this toolbar that pops out, so I can make this required. Hit the cog wheel and enter these options here, so I can have the slider show that it's required or not here too. The expected format helps for validation. So if it's say an email, you only want it to be something@something.com. And then you can add it in to be an email. This can help as well for processing after the form is submitted. So say if you add an auto response rule or anything in place like that. And then you can change the question types here. So is it going to be a text area? Are you going to upload files? Is it a password, radio button checkboxes? Drop-down menus, they work with in Salesforce core side of things, dynamic pick lists, and doesn't really make much difference within the Marketing Cloud side of things. But yeah, so if I continue to build out how these fields look, so say if I just add this one in as email. Done, I can actually section it up here. So if I hit field set, call this contact info. The nice part of the builder is that it's drag and drop. So something I'm sure other apps you've used in the past have this type of functionality. Is nothing too novel, but it's a nice way for someone non-technical such as myself to just begin building basically quite simply. So I just have contact info here, first name, last name, email, hit done. There's my form pretty much good to go. On top of that, we have predefined content. So this can help if you're building out your form in a more detailed manner and you need to pop out some information. Maybe you're not too fussed to actually go and build it yourself. So say for your example down here, we have payment info in this folder. So say I wanted to pop out banking info, it looks like that. So these are password fields, so they're masking the bank account numbers, the routing number, anything like that. But it's just an easier way to get that done, to just pop something out. If you want to render on different devices, we talked about using iPads for forms in the past on this user group. So this is how it looks on an iPad. This is how it looks on a mobile. So you can see how much space you're left with really in your form. And then if you don't want to enter into the URL, you just hit this preview button here. You can just see how it looks on the website currently. So that's it from the builder perspective. In the terms of the themes then, and if I wanted to style my forms, let's go back to this way. So if I went into themes, so within here, I'm in the form semi-branded one. So then customize, I can rename it here with the pencil. We also, for any marketers on the call, which is important, add in the different dimensions, basically the color scheme that your customer wants. So if they have a branding guideline, they have a PDF, and you have a hex or anything like that, you can go by that and make the logo size based off rem, em, or px, percentage sign. And then we have the custom CSS down here. You can pop this out and it's inline editing. So if you want to actually mess around with this, you're more than welcome to. And then outline over here. So again, drag and drop again. So if you wanted to just actually change the way the form is actually looking from this side, from more of an index style, that's possible too. And then within properties, I can rename what the form is actually called here, show the title with this slider, or turn it off. We're available in a number of different languages. This is a London user group, so I assume English is the language of choice, but we're available in a number of others as well, listed here. And yeah, this is just a layout, how you want it to look like. Different information such as GDPR, you can have the link within here and how you want that to look. And then again, custom code at the bottom. Wanted to keep this piece a bit brief just to show you how fast it can be to have a form live, ready to go. And just to show you now that it's saved, this is how it looks. The payment info here. This is the Marketing Cloud one. I'm not sure which one you'd like me to go through first. I'm guessing because it's a Marketing Cloud audience, let's start with this one. Then I'm going to come back if I have time for the core one. So some simple info. Subscribe. And I made a custom message here. So this is basically using merge fields, right? So I've got my first name, last name. I'm going to be going to the summer camp hosted by Form Assembly, and this custom message to say, hey, check out your inbox. You're going to have a message coming soon. And then I'm going over to Email Studio. And then within my data extensions here, I've got one called Summer Camp. Down here, so you can see I've got four records that exist over here. So if I hit on the records tab, then you can see I've come in that way. So I've taken all these different fields. I have to manually obviously make them in order that it's not the same as having the pre-existing fields like in Salesforce objects and on the core side of things. But I just wanted to keep it simple and put four different fields in. I didn't put in the phone number one, so that one won't be copying over, but all these other ones will. And then to make things simple, I can just pre-fill this info again. So if I go back into my form here, and then if I have a question mark and then email is equal to this. Actually, hang on, let me just refresh this to show you. So here it is blank, and then the question mark equals this email. If I did this one.
You need to put email is equal to.
Oh yeah, sorry, I missed email. Yeah, thanks. So there's another example again. I have a couple of different ones I made earlier on. So there's the pre-filling working here. And then if I hit subscribe, you saw it go across into Marketing Cloud that way. So I'll go into the connectors, what I actually had connected on that side for the Marketing Cloud. And then if time allows, I can show you the core side as well. So in order to just pop straight into the connectors, they're over here. So for this one, oh no, sorry, it's the wrong one. So for this one, connectors here. As I was saying before, I have all three different types of connectors. I've got the pre-filling, which you saw, which is in here. After I submitted it, you saw it go into Marketing Cloud. I've disabled the one after submission, but that's basically to just update. And yeah, so if I hit configure here, in order to connect to my Marketing Cloud instance, I got the status to be enabled, but basically this is always a treat because I've got LastPass and it basically copies over my password for my demo environment, which is going to suddenly not make me connected to Marketing Cloud. So if you do use LastPass and Form Assembly, be conscious of that. Not great. I just hit cancel so it doesn't happen. Basically what you're going to need is you're going to into install packages and you find Form Assembly within there, and then you just copy in your client ID, client secret, and your authentication base right here, and hit OK, and then it should connect. It is quite temperamental compared to our seamless core connectivity, so I will caveat that too. Just be patient with it. Can be quite sensitive. And then what I did is just create a data extension listed here. So here's all the data extensions that I do have in my Marketing Cloud instance. And these are all the fields that I copied over. So I can add another object in again and update here. So if I wanted to update a subscriber, it's going to look like this: subscribe to these different lists of subscriptions. And then you can unsubscribe from also here. And I remember mentioning at the start about interactions. So they now actually are visible, but I hadn't the time to actually confirm, can we definitely use interactions? Because as you'll see back here, I can't necessarily use it. It just has information. It won't let me click into anything. So I guess with time, let me try and quickly show the cloud pages that I made of the same form. I was explaining to Jimson that it has been a while since I had gone into cloud pages. You can see this was the last one that I did make. So if I go into this one, I'll show you the example of legacy cloud pages. This is one that did work. So if I hit this link, it's sitting on an exact target URL, took over the HTML, everything was good. And it comes in the preview here. But if I come back to it, to my summer camp one that I made this week, then I hit into a bit of a problem. So it's only going to show me just kind of a bare bones version of it. It's not really going to take in the themes that I built. So it's just going to look like that. But yeah, in order to do this, essentially what you want to do is there's a section here under body. So I mean, some of the folks on the call may know this already, but in order to locate that, you come back into your form assembly platform within here, and then under publishing here. And basically we have changed recently into this. So HTML code used to be just one, and now you can copy in the actual body section if you want. You just copy all of that basically, and then put it straight into here, into the cloud pages, and it should reflect it here. But they've obviously changed it. I wasn't briefed that they had changed cloud pages since I last used it. So the previous way did work, but I'm sure as discussed with Jimson, we can take a look at how do we accommodate for the new version of cloud pages. And then to cap off for time's sake, this is one going into core. So I have a form that I'm basically saying I'm signing up to be a donor. So if I hit yes or no, I'm going to be taken on different journeys. So if I hit no, I have this donor sign up info here. So just saying again. And then I've got a dynamic pick list in here. So this one's taking in the different industries based off of that. So I'm saying construction, because it's a donation form, I'm asking how much are you willing to donate. So I could say $25. Then I have this card information I was showing you guys earlier on pop out. Pretty easy. If you want to get rid of that, do it that way. And then I can make the recurring or one-off payment. And then if I want to sponsor someone, also said that I can have 4 volunteers max. So I have this volunteer info section within here, and I've capped it at 4, so I can keep adding other volunteers basically. So yeah, if I hit submit, it should work. And then again, the same thing again, merge fields with custom info in here. And then if I refresh my list within here, and I'm going to appear within this one at this account 123 charity, part of this campaign called New Charity Donors. And then I believe there should be some activity based off of that. So yeah, I've got a couple of different campaign members that I had over time. But then I guess just to show you the other elements that you can do. So what this is known as concatenating the form. So if I start from the start again, and if I say I am a donor, in fact, and I put in my own personal email here. And if you take note of this 7 random numbers at the form sheet on the form URL at the very top, if I hit submit here, it's going to concatenate me to another form. So it's changed the numbers here to pre-fill my email, and it's saying how much I've donated over time. I can update any of the info I have here. So that's basically what I had in mind for today. I hope it was all right. I'm really sorry that it was very basic in terms of what I can do from Marketing Cloud perspective, but we're always open to suggestions, and everyone on the call is more than welcome to have their own complimentary playground to test the stuff out. So thanks very much.
Great, thanks, Roy. We'll open the mic for questions. I'll start with the first question. So when you have a form and you want to host it on a website like WordPress, traditionally there are three options. You can do iframe, you can do HTML, or you can do JavaScript. Which ones does Form Assembly support?
It's a good one, and it's definitely been a topic people have brought up. So what happens is we have a WordPress plugin that you can actually avail of. And when you go on the WordPress website, it says that we're in version 2.0.4, but actually we're the latest one. And it is a blog post we posted recently. So if you are going to use WordPress to host the form, it works perfectly fine. I can give a couple of examples to people if you want to see them after this. But it has been a topic people are interested in. So we do support a plugin proper.
Okay, great. Any questions out there? Feel free to.
I've got a Form Assembly testimonial if it's okay to share it.
Yep.
Sure.
So a few years ago, I was at a university that was using Sales Cloud, but they weren't using Experience Cloud. And I built some really heavy and extensive collection of Form Assembly forms to handle capturing all of the students' information ahead of them turning up to enroll, to make the enrollment day process much swifter, because we've already can pre-populate their enrollment forms with info we've gathered during the summer break before they turn up. And in the same way that Rory used the existing donor and email address, we were doing the same with two pieces of information that the prospective student would type in to identify themselves, and then if it finds a match in Salesforce of one of our incoming students, then the rest of the forms, and we had like 13 pages of forms to capture information, would all be pre-populated with information that we already had, and the ability for the student to fill in the gaps or to make amendments and upload their passport and things like that. And right at the end of the process, we would then capture all of those answers into a custom object that had all of the same fields that the person account had on it, so that then that could be reviewed and signed off, and if all correct, we would update the actual student record with the new and updated information ahead of their enrollment, and then use that to print out pre-populated enrollment form. So there was just so much power and flexibility that was made available to us through the Form Assembly platform, that it just enabled us to do some really cool stuff. And you can imagine the amount of man hours and data quality that we benefited from. So that's my testimonial.
That's great.
I was going to actually add to that too. So I don't know, Darren, if you've not obviously seen with the launch of Admissions Connect. So we've launched an Admissions Connect package, and that's led by my counterpart, who's Oxfordshire based, called Johnny Payne. So I've worked with Johnny on this, and I enabled people to actually see a demo. So if anyone is working in the higher ed space on the call and you want to see how we're working with Admissions Connect proper, if you're using the EDA Cloud or anything like that, more than happy to set that up.
Cool. I haven't seen that, but I've been out of higher ed for a couple of years now. But yeah, nice. Even better.
Perfect.
Yeah, I guess that was a great example, actually, Darren. I like to chime in. Actually, we've been working with Rory on a number of different assignments and trying to push the boundaries of how it could work and create very sophisticated but very affordable solutions for clients. And one of them is forms. It's not forms, it's surveys, right? When you think about it, the survey is actually a form. So how do you actually use that? This client had lots of problems with their survey packets, and so this form assembly is also a solution for that. And we've even looked at making it a custom preference center, which, a custom preference center can be, there's a lot of difference between custom, from beginning custom to very custom. And somewhere along that spectrum, actually, Form Assembly can also play a role. So it gets a little bit more in the sophistication of it all, but I think it's really nice. Actually, I think, Rory, what you could do, I don't know what the rest of the people here is interested in, but I think the power of how it also integrates with Salesforce. I know we're doing this for Marketing Cloud, but that whole link, right? What I think is really powerful is how it really works with Salesforce core so well, and and then really how to build a whole loop, right? But particularly if you have syncing at the back, there are other ways to use form assembly together with Salesforce and Marketing Cloud, depending on how you set up your Marketing Cloud and Salesforce integration. So maybe just even show how that third option, you're
Yeah.
in. And I don't know if people are interested into that, but I know at least Chris here is interested in Salesforce core to some degree. I don't know about the other people, but maybe that's worth showing.
No, absolutely. I was even going to add in too, because I showed just briefly the predefined content folder, and within there, there's survey predefined content as well. So you can pop out Likert scale. I've done that in the past, and then if you go, I'll just share my screen. It's way easier than verbalizing. No one likes to be verbalized at all anymore.
Okay.
So if I go back in here and just go into the builder itself, right? So you have that form, that this folder here in terms of predefined content down here. So if I go to here, I've got survey section. So survey response, Likert, I've got Likert scale. So I can pop that out and have like the different, how is the customer feedback today? Are you likely to recommend it? Can you please note down your experience? And then this is a calculated field. So if I go in options here, should be marked down that it's calculated off the above, and if not, then obviously you can make it so it's checked as being a calculated field. So you enter in all the overall calculations. So all the stuff is just pre-made, and it's deciding on how is the facility location, food, beverages, staff friendly, all friendliness, all that jazz. So basically, if I hit save here and pop this out, then it should be the case that if I'm going to add in my scores, 4, 5, 5, 3, whatever, that while I do that, then it's actually making the calculations for me down here. So that's one of the powerful things that I didn't know if I'd have time to show today. I had it in the past. It's really, really useful actually. And then of course you can change this to reflect whatever it is you really want to be calculating in terms of a feedback or a survey.
No, absolutely. I think, in general, if you're really, really good at Cloud Pages, you really know your HTML, CSS, and you really know your interactive email and AMP email, you probably don't need form assembly off the record, but who really knows all those skill sets really, really well? And especially a lot of us are consultants here. So when you go to a client site, once you're gone, who's going to build those Cloud Pages? Who's going to tweak the Cloud Pages? Who's going to add an extra field to a web form that's done on a Cloud Page, right? So yeah, Astra does it. I mean, we can do it, but often, the budgets are smaller for mid-sized companies, and they just want something quick and simple, something to maintain. And so, form assembly comes to the rescue for many reasons. But like I said, Marketing Cloud out of the box does work for a lot of your needs, but you really have to know it really well. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that the nice bit is anyone, as I said at the start, anyone on the call is welcome to their own, production ready playground type account. It's like more than welcome to test this stuff out. It doesn't come at any cost. So it's helpful if you do come across any customer scenarios and you just wanted to pop open a form you made beforehand. You didn't need to hire any devs, or anyone, any other platform perhaps, that's around. It's just that it's robust enough to fit into Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, and then we've got the Stripe connector, and actually we're building in a Salesforce Elevate connector as well, but I'm not too familiar on that. Admissions Connect seems to be what I really need to be the expert on. So that's kind of the hot topic for us at the moment. But I'm happy to go into here again, as Astrid said, just to show like that it isn't just one connector at a time. So I picked Marketing Cloud ones because of the theme of the call, but if I want to actually have Salesforce connected at the same time, that's possible. So I've got the Stripe connector here, Salesforce core within here, PayPal, IATs, we do have a HTTPS connector for any Pardot people on the call. Again, I don't have much experience with the Pardot side of things, but that is something we can accommodate for. So if it's coming from elsewhere and you want the form to go outside this list, that's possible. With the redirect under notifications, it's possible to go to other payment gateways. So if anyone's using the likes of Findoc or Asperato, we don't have a de facto connector like listed here, but it will work. It will work if you are capturing payments elsewhere off the list.
That's great. And I think also for those core users, last November, December last year with the winter 20 update, I think we all experienced the guest user issue. They stopped that, and I see Chris smiling here. So I think once you experience that, Cloud Pages will definitely help your case there. But that definitely threw a lot of people in the loop last year at Christmas. So another plus for form assembly if you're doing some of the fancy work, any kind of DML operation you need, you definitely want something like form assembly, because the authentication is already, predefined, right? It's already there,
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, unauthenticated or guest user. So anytime you're doing any kind of pre-fill, fetching data, I mean, you can do that with AmpScript, right? But like I said, you have to really know AmpScript really well to do that. Otherwise, just get something out of the box, get it set up for the client, and then go with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like to do the Salesforce core side of things, it's just using OAuth. It's extremely simple. It's just taking the org that I had in mind, the dev org that I have. You can have custom ones for customer, any type of instance you need, and then it's just looking up any object I have, customer standards. That's the nice bit about being web to anything. The next thing on the Salesforce core side of things is because of going after objects, you can do a bit more, and lookups is a really handy one. So just being able to isolate an object within Salesforce, do nothing with it initially, you would just highlight it and expose it, and then take action off that. So you can add another object here, but you can make dependent objects as well. So if I add another object again, and I wanted to make one dependent of the other, that's possible too.
Yeah, and until June of this release, Cloud Page did not support upsert. So back until June, you needed to use like form assembly if you're trying to do any upserts. But this is great. I mean, this, App Exchange products and Salesforce are always, playing cat and mouse, right? There's always products. Salesforce is always copying what the competition is doing, and then they try to steal it and develop it. I mean, we know a couple of sites that membership sites, who are great out of the box 3-4 years ago, but now, communities, trumps it just as good. So, if basically, if you don't develop it, Salesforce will eventually. They'll just copy what you're doing or buy you out, either one, right? Acquire you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Any other questions here? We have a few more minutes. Anything? Questions? No, Astrid, you're muted, Astrid.
I mean, I can add that I've also used form assembly, but one of the nice things was really about adding attachments.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Headache out of other things. And that although there are, you need to have some knowledge of the Salesforce objects and the content objects to be able to get it to link in the right related list, the fact that you can actually just spin up a form, get someone to submit some logos or other files, and I think you can actually even restrict the type of file that they can load into the system, made that very easy and straightforward. So yeah, just another example of how it just makes it easy to replicate, build on something you've done before, and then that scaling is very accessible.
Exactly. I don't have an example now to show you, but one of the best features is what I call the iPad form, where you check in a place, you give an iPad, you fill in your questions, like a dentist or doctor's office. That makes it so much easier than having to fill up paper and pen and clipboard and fill it in. I mean, how many people do the survey questionnaires, medical survey questionnaires before seeing a doctor or dentist, right? no one does it, right? Yeah. Well, I always do it on site, but if those iPad things, just click, you're done, and boom, you're done. So that's great. Or even, well, when we used to go to Salesforce Tower, we always had to sign in all the time. Remember that? When we used to go to Salesforce Tower.
I definitely missed the fish.
Yeah, you gotta sign in downstairs and get to see the fish tank, and then you're finally done. Then you go upstairs and they make you fill a form again, right? So
Yeah.
all that's being captured and GDPR requirements. So it's all fun and games, but all good. So who misses being on site? How many people here are actually going on site to a client site? Anybody? No? I did my first yesterday after 16 months.
I'm supposed to go for my first Form Assembly partner point in Valencia because someone from Paul Source lives here. So I'm pretty chuffed if we can. So I haven't met anyone in person since the pandemic.
No, I'm going into the office. I'm not meeting any clients at the moment. But when I go into the office, it's empty. I know I've not physically met. Well, I've met my team. I started a new job last month, June. I've met my team once, and that's it, in person. The rest has just been on video. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've recently taken on a new role. The company and the office is based in Bath, and I'm in London. So fortunately, it's a permanently remote role. But I only managed to meet some of the team at the weekend just gone because the product owner threw a barbecue at his house, and about 20 of us there. But apart from that, yeah, not going to the office, not face to face with anybody.
Well, I think Carrie and I are going to try to do a outdoor meetup. If the stars line up and we get a venue outside and the weather's good in London, we definitely will try an outdoor event, but it's not looking good these days lately, so I'm not going to hold my breath. But our goal is eventually to have an outdoor meetup and in-person meetups eventually.
Yeah.
When that is, I don't know.
Yeah, again, I mean, we always used to meet in person, so the vision is always to get back to that. It's just about timing, really, and what's appropriate, and equally, like, trying to be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah.
You know, lots of different factors for all the different user groups, in terms of, you know, where we go, and, you know, some of the unknowns are going to be like, we hosted events because companies were willing to allow us to use their offices. And I mean, at least my assumption at this time is that they're going to be prioritizing bringing in their staff and their clients before opening up to additional groups. However, until we find out more about that, I don't know whether that assumption is correct or what the appetite is. So we'll see over the next couple of months.
Safety and venue, top two, in that order.
Yeah.
Safety.
Oh.
Okay.
So we've come to the top of the hour. There was what I will describe as some optional content where I was gonna, like, there was an option to go in and talk about some of the resources. So I recently did a talk at Czech Dreaming where I summarized a selection of resources, and by going through that talk, I actually got all the links together and things like that. So there is a recording of that available, and if we had time, I would have gone through some of that just to make sure that everyone on the call was available for those or knew where they were, but I can provide that link in another format, and maybe we'll touch on that at a later date, because all of those will be still relevant, along with, I would imagine, in a couple of lots more content, because it's a great place at the moment. There are lots of people generating content. There's a lot more information about Marketing Cloud available. So I think we've probably moved to a point of starvation into overwhelm when it comes to content around learning Marketing Cloud, particularly as they've also, Salesforce have now consolidated a lot of their resources, and they have a specific developer center and all of those sort of things. So it makes it a lot easier to find. But from my point of view, I think we're ready to wrap. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's it. If no more questions, that'd be great. And again, if you want to hear a certain talk, just send us an email, send us a message on the community. If you want to hear something specific, we'll organize something.
And what's more, if you want to speak, then we want to hear from you even more. Or you want to nominate someone else to speak. You know, you don't need to have asked them first, just nominate them. And we'll see what we can do. But otherwise, thank you for joining us this evening. We will miss you in August, but see you in September. And it will be great to when we can start to meet in person, although that's we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Likewise. Okay, thanks. Thank everybody.